What we have here today is a mess. So what we're going to do is we're going to build some dividers. We're going to build them out of dowels and little strips of pine, and we're going to put 3 dividers in this area so we can tip these up like this and have them not fall down. So step by step. What we need to create are 3 dividers. 3 on top, 3 on bottom. We're going to have 2 dowels in each, 6 total. Now we've decided to bring these out the full width of the shelf so that we can not hit the edge as we slide things in and out. We'll know where the edge is. So the top we're going to measure is 18 inches. And the bottom has a piece of structure in the back, and it's a little bit different. We measure 17 3/8. 17 3/8 I'm going to call it. So we decided to go 1 inch wide, which allows us to put a 5/8 inch diameter dowel in the middle of it with 3/16 on each side. And I have purchased a special drill bit to do the drilling with. So we'll see how it all works, and we'll go from there. What we're going to do here today is we're going to cut 6 pieces of dowel, and we're going to cut them at 11 3/4 inch, which I have measured and marked right here, and I have set the saw up to cut 11 3/4 inch, and then I adjusted my stop, and I set the stop for this cut so that when I'm done my 6 pieces, they'll all be the same. Now I could probably just measure and mark and cut, but this lets them all be the same. So we're going to take this route, and I will cut 6 pieces right here of dowel using my Harbor Freight chop saw that you have seen reviewed on our website. And oh, by the way, today we are powering everything with our off-grid solar. We are off the grid in our new house, our new garage. We've recently sold the old house where we started all this business, but now we're in the new house and we're off-grid 100%. Okay, here we have 6 pieces all cut the same length. And what we're using here today, I'm not sure I've really discussed the size of our dowel. We're using 5/8 inch poplar, and we've just decided on the 5/8 inch size as being a compromise between, I thought 1/2 inch was a little bit light duty for the area that we're going to have and the dishes we're going to put in there, and I thought 3/4 inch took a little bit more space than I wanted to take up, so we decided on 5/8. Now I could have bought oak, and I thought of buying oak, but I think this poplar is it's blemish free. There's no knots at all. It looks like good stuff, and I think it will have all the strength I need. So we're going to paint it anyway, so it's not really a question of appearance. We're going to sand these up and we're going to paint them, and I think this is a good size. The support for our dowels will be provided by a little piece of pine board that we're going to saw out. And I'm going to take it out of this board, and I've marked this board. And we have one end is marked 17 3/8, and the other end I've marked 18 inches from the other end. And once again, I'm going to cut it. I've put my stop down, and I'm going to cut it on my chop saw. And then I'm going to rip it on my table saw, and we're going to go 1 inch wide, so we'll get to that in a minute. But first we're going to cut it to length. Alright, I've set my table saw up to cut 1 inch wide, and I've sawed my 2 pieces to length on my chop saw, and then we need 3 strips out of each. So when I do this, I'm going to use a correct pusher tool to push through my pieces so I don't cut my fingers off. That would be bad. And after we've ripped those pieces of wood, then we'll just kind of sand them up, and then we'll drill them for the dowels. Alright, the 6 pieces of wood that I cut on my chop saw and my table saw, I have marked them up for drilling, and in this particular case I've decided on 4 inches from the front and 11 inches, 4 and 11. So that's not an even spacing, but the idea being that shorter pieces, shorter things slid in from the front will catch 2 pegs. So I'm going to use a Forstner drill bit on my Ryobi 18 volt cordless drill, which, as I say, 18 volt Ryobi built this house, which it did, and we're going to drill these pieces off. Okay, now that we have our wooden strips cut, drilled, and sanded, they're in the process of being painted before we set them in place. Now, we've decided that the dowels are going to be free floating inside the strips of wood, and this will allow for any variance in the height of my cabinet. So it shouldn't make any difference to the function. We have 3/4 of an inch top and bottom, and we're talking a 1/16 or perhaps an 1/8 of variance in my cabinet. So once that paint dries, we'll slide them into place and put just a couple of screws to locate the wood, and we'll see how it all goes. What we've done is we've assembled our various pieces. We have a long and a short to fit up inside. We have a little trim piece we have to work around, and we have our 2 dowels. And that is going to slide in, I think, actually this way, and we'll put the screws like this, and we will have a divider. So let's give it a try. I have marked my shelf where I want them to be. And that will go in like this. Put that down before I drop it. And we'll line this up, top and bottom. I have my bottom on mark, so let me put 1 screw in right there on the bottom, and then we'll work our way around. Make sure that everything lines up. Adjust as needed. And we'll put the other screws in. That's pretty close. And there is 1 divider, and we have 2 more to go, which will go here and here, and then we will be able to slide things in this manner and have them kind of divvied up so they're not just all stacked on top of each other. And I'll finish those 2 up and we'll take another picture. At this point, we have our dividers installed in our shelf. My wife has put a few items in there to show how it's all going to work. Right off the bat, I call it a big improvement over what we started with. Were I to do it again, I probably would paint after I did my assembly, because the paint kind of jammed things up and we had a little trouble with it. But basically it all worked fairly well. It came out nice. And that's one project done, and now on to the next.